And good afternoon, Linda.
Thank you. Could you share with us some common names for Merrybell, this native wildflower, and some familiar species in its plant family?
Would love to do that. So Eubularia grandiflora, what a great name, grand flower, commonly known as the Merrybell. As you said, it's a native perennial wildflower, so it can really cheer up your garden. And it's the most commonly planted of the Eubularia species, which is kind of interesting. Some of the common names of it are bellwort, large bellwort, large flower bellwort. Kind of repetitive, but you get the idea. It's related. It's called bellwort in one way or another. And these are part of the family of Colchicaceae, which I was surprised to learn includes about 752 different species. Some of them you may be familiar with, such as Colchium or Gloriosa. Colchium is a bulb known as autumn crocus and looks very similar to that. And then Gloriosa is a bulb with a beautiful lily-like flower that climbs, absolutely gorgeous. But the problem with that one is it's a little bit highly toxic. So that's always a concern. But I'd like to talk about some of the characteristics of this also.
So Roseanne, I'm looking for an attractive and fragrant perennial for my cutting garden. What are the distinguishing characteristics of Merrybells, and would they make a good choice for my cutting garden?
I think they would be a great choice. Now that you asked that, the root system on Merrybells is rhimatogous, meaning it can form other colonies via those roots. The stems are pretty green to red burgundy color, so that kind of brings some brightness to the garden. And then the leaves are kind of an elliptical shape, so it also adds that textural shape element to the gardens. They have little fine hairs on the underside of them. The leaves can be about 3 to 6 inches long and about 1 to 3 inches wide. So that again adds some character to the plant. And then the flowers on it are a yellow gold color, kind of a bell shape, lily-like, and have a very mild fragrance. So they bloom for about 2 weeks during the mid-spring and because of their strong stem structure, with the flowers about 1 to 3 inches long, they make great cut flowers for your vases in your house.
Terrific. If I grow this native plant in my home garden, what kind of conditions do I need to provide for it to thrive?
It's pretty adaptable, actually. So it prefers partial to full shade, which is great for those who have a lot of shade like me. And this is a great option, other than the standard hostas we're familiar with. For soil, it's pretty forgiving, doing well in the clay, humus, or loam. For me, my shaded areas are damp, so this is also perfect because Merrybells like moisture, but with good drainage. They just don't like to have their feet wading in water, if you know what I mean. For landscapes, if you're someone who goes into the themed landscapes, these can fit into a native garden or shaded garden theme. They also do well in containers, on patios, along slopes and banks, or as a border along your walkways. So they're pretty versatile in that respect. Because of the clumping, you can use them as mass plantings or in small groups, which make them very, very pretty. And some of the companion plants that they do well with are the hostas, your ferns, and other woodland plants.
So Merrybells grow in masses in my shade garden. Are they an easy plant to grow from seed?
Well, they can be grown from seed. However, you need to plant the seeds immediately after they ripen. So timing there is a little confusing, and don't want to let them dry out. So really the best and easiest method is to divide the mature clumps, as you would do with hostas, astilbes, etc. And the best time is spring or fall, as with the other plants. It has a medium growth rate, so that's an added plus, to about 1.5 to 2 feet tall and about 1 to 1.5 feet in width. And a big plus is they are low maintenance, so that also makes nice.
Oh, that's terrific. Roseanne, are there any disease or pest issues?
There's a lot of benefits to them. Oh, as far as problems, well, we kind of shy away from a lot of plants because of the problems they have, but you don't have to worry about that with the Merrybells, because they have no serious disease problems. And the only real pests might be slugs on the young plants. But you can deter that by using a pine needle mulch around them. Deer, however, can cause some damage. Allison mentioned that it had them in her neighborhood, so you want to watch out for those. But that seems to be the only issue.
Do these beautiful bell-shaped flowers attract pollinators?
Yes, yes, they do. There are many benefits to this because of the fragrance. It makes it, as we've mentioned, a beautiful cut flower for your house. And though the flowers attract butterflies and hummingbirds, bumblebees and mason bees are also attracted to the nectar and help with the pollination. And another thing is Merrybells are favored by the specialized bee, the Adrena uvularia.
It's wonderful to know that Merrybells attract pollinators. Can you tell us more about this native bee, Adrena?
Yes, since this is a specialized bee, I thought I would include a little bit of information on it. It's a native pollinator, and as such, it's important since most of the food we buy at the stores is pollinated by bees. Some of us remember the bee movie where everything collapsed because the bees were being eliminated. Anyway, so we need to have a habitat that is supportive of these insects. And I know all these programs we do talk about that. Right now, we rely on the European honeybee for pollination, but due to pesticide use, these have been declining. The Adrena uvularia is specialized because the females are specific to a family and genus of plant, like the uvularia. With the Merrybells, they're attracted to the flowers, and because they're small, the flowers are small and yellow and close to the ground, that's where the bees live, so it's perfect fit. The bees are active in the spring and fall, which would be expected, and they're considered mining bees because they nest in the ground. However, one nice thing is they seldom sting, so not to worry there.
Wow, that was interesting, and it's good to know that they seldom sting. Here's some references.
Yep, so these are some of the references I use in my material. I encourage people to go look for more information and definitely think about putting something like the Merrybells in your garden. Thank you, Linda.
Thank you, Roseanne, for this informative discussion on Merrybells. I look forward to the opportunity of growing Merrybells in my home garden.